My son sold my house while I was on vacation, destroying everything I built to pay off his reckless debts. When I returned, they laughed at me. "You're homeless now, old woman." Their laughter echoed as I stood on the street, but I smiled, knowing that the house they sold held a secret. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The key wouldn't turn. I stood there on my front porch, suitcase behind me, staring at the lock that had worked perfectly for 12 years. My hand shook as I tried again. Nothing. The sun was setting over the neighborhood, casting long shadows across the lawn that looked different somehow. The grass was longer. There were new flowers in the beds I'd planted myself. "Can I help you?" A woman's voice came from inside. My inside. Through the window, I could see her walking toward the door. She was younger than me, maybe 40, wearing yoga pants and a tank top I'd never seen before. Behind her, the walls were painted gray. My walls had been cream-colored. "This is my house," I said. The words felt strange in my mouth. "I'm Margaret Patterson. I live here. I've lived here since 2013. The woman's face changed from curious to uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I think there's some kind of mistake. We bought this house last month." "I'm Rachel Davis." My knees went weak. Last month I'd been in Hawaii, my first real vacation in 5 years. My son Brandon had insisted I go. "You work too hard, Mom. Take a break. Enjoy yourself. We'll handle everything here." I'd been so grateful, so trusting. "That's impossible," I heard myself say. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "I own this house. The mortgage is paid off. This is mine." Rachel Davis pulled out her phone. "Honey," she called over her shoulder, "can you come here? We might need to call someone." "Wait." I fumbled for my own phone. My fingers felt thick and clumsy. There's been a terrible mistake. My son Brandon, he was watching the house. Let me call him. I pressed Brandon's number. It rang, and rang, and rang. Rachel stood in the doorway of my house, not threatening, but not moving. Her husband appeared behind her, tall and concerned looking. I could see them exchanging glances. "Mom!" Brandon's voice finally came through. "You're back already?" "Brandon, there are strangers in our house. I don't understand what's happening. These people say they bought it. Why are there people in my house?" Silence on the other end. Then I heard a woman's voice in the background. That was Ashley, his wife. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Brandon was laughing. Not a nervous laugh. A real laugh. "Mom, calm down. I sold it. Ashley and I needed the money. We have debts. Serious debts. And you gave me power of attorney, remember? When you had your surgery last year?" The world tilted sideways. I actually sat down right there on the porch steps. Rachel Davis took a step back inside. Her husband was already on his phone. "Brandon, you can't just sell someone's house. That power of attorney was for medical decisions during my surgery. It expired months ago. You know that." "It's done, Mom. The house is sold. Ashley and I are square now. You should have told me you were coming back early. Look, just go to a hotel. We'll figure something out tomorrow." "Figure something out?" "Brandon, this is my home. Where am I supposed to go?" I hear him talking to Ashley in the background. Then Ashley's voice came through, loud and clear. "Tell her the Motel 6 on Highway 9 has weekly rates. She'll be fine." They were laughing again, both of them. My son and his wife were laughing while I sat on a stranger's porch, locked out of my own home. "Brandon," I started, but the line went dead. He'd hung up on me. "Ma'am," Rachel Davis said gently, "I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to call the police if you don't leave. We bought this house legally. We have all the paperwork." The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers, both professional and polite. They looked at Rachel Davis's documents. Sale completed 30 days ago. New deed filed with the county. Everything looked legitimate on paper. The older officer, a woman with kind eyes, helped me to my feet. "Ma'am, I understand this is confusing, but you need to leave the property. Do you have somewhere to go?" "I have nowhere," I said. "This was my home. I've lived here for 12 years. My late husband and I bought this house together. He died here. His memory is in every room." The younger officer carried my suitcase to their patrol car. We'll give you a ride somewhere, he said. A hotel, maybe? Do you have family you can call? Family. My son had just stolen my house. My husband was dead 3 years now. My daughter lived in Oregon, and we hadn't spoken since her father's funeral. She'd sided with Brandon in every family argument, always defending him, always making excuses. As the police car pulled away from my house, I turned to look back. Rachel Davis and her husband stood on the porch, watching. They looked relieved to see me go. In the window, I could see my living room, but it wasn't my living room anymore. Different furniture, different curtains, different life. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. Holiday Inn Express on Market Street. I booked you a room for tonight. We'll talk tomorrow. He'd booked me a hotel room. While I was swimming in the ocean and watching sunsets, my son had been planning this, executing this, stealing everything. Ma'am? The female officer said from the front seat. You okay back there? No, I said honestly. But I will be. I need to make some calls. Do either of you know a good lawyer? The officers exchanged glances. The woman nodded slowly. You think this wasn't legal? I know it wasn't legal. My son forged my signature. And I'm going to prove it. What the officers didn't know, what Brandon didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that I wasn't just Margaret Patterson, retired schoolteacher. Before I taught elementary school, before I married Tom and settled down, I'd worked for 8 years as a paralegal in one of Seattle's top law firms. I knew contracts. I knew real estate law. I knew exactly what my son had done wrong, and I was going to make him pay for every single mistake. The Holiday Inn Express smelled like industrial cleaner and old carpet. The front desk clerk smiled at me with practiced sympathy. Mrs. Patterson? Your son called ahead. He said you might be tired from traveling. Tired? That's what Brandon told them. Not that he'd stolen my house. Not that he'd made me homeless. Just that I was tired. How long will you be staying with us? The clerk asked. I don't know yet, I said, taking the key card. However long it takes. The room was generic and depressing. Beige walls, floral bedspread, painting of a beach sunset that mocked my recent vacation. I sat on the bed and didn't move for a full 5 minutes. Then I opened my laptop. Thank God I'd scanned everything. Thank God for my paranoid habit of keeping digital copies. The documents were all there in my cloud storage, the deed to my house showing my name only. Tom had left it to me in his will. Specifically to me, not to the kids. The limited power of attorney I'd signed before my gallbladder surgery, clearly stating it was for medical decisions only, and expiring 6 months after the procedure. That had been 14 months ago. I found the sale documents. The officers had taken pictures and emailed them to me as a courtesy. I studied Brandon's forgery of my signature. It was close. He'd practiced. But the M was wrong. I'd developed a specific way of writing my M after years of signing school documents. This M was too round, too looping. My phone rang. My daughter, Melissa. Mom, Brandon just called me. He said you're having some kind of breakdown, that you showed up at a house you don't own anymore and caused a scene. Of course, that's what he told her. Melissa, your brother sold my house while I was in Hawaii. He forged my signature. Mom, that doesn't sound like Brandon. Are you sure you're not confused? Did you maybe sign something before you left and forgot about it? The implication hung in the air between us, that I was old, confused, maybe developing dementia. I was 62 years old, sharp as I'd ever been, and my own daughter was suggesting I couldn't remember signing away my home. Melissa, I did not sign anything. Brandon committed fraud. He forged my name on legal documents and stole my house to pay off his debts. What debts? Brandon's doing fine. He and Ashley just bought a new boat. A new boat. With my money, presumably. Melissa, I need you to believe me. Your brother has stolen from me. I need your help. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. Mom, I think you should see a doctor. Maybe the travel was too much. You've been under a lot of stress since Dad died. She didn't believe me. My own daughter thought I was losing my mind. Fine, I said. Don't believe me. But when this all comes out, when Brandon is facing criminal charges, remember that I asked for your help and you called me confused. I hung up before she could respond. The next morning, I woke up at 5. Old teaching habits. I'd spent 30 years waking up before dawn to prepare lessons, grade papers, be ready for my students. Now I used that early morning clarity to plan my attack. First call was to Janet Morrison, a lawyer I'd worked with back in my paralegal days. She'd been a junior associate then. Now she ran her own practice specializing in elder law and estate planning. Margaret Patterson, Janet said when she answered. I heard the smile in her voice. It's been what, 20 years? 22, I said. Janet, I need your help. My son sold my house while I was on vacation. Forged my signature. I need to get it back, and I need him prosecuted. The smile disappeared from her voice. Tell me everything. I spent an hour laying it out. Every detail, every document. When I finished, Janet was quiet for a moment. Margaret, this is textbook fraud. Elder abuse, forgery. And if he used the mail or email for any part of this, that's federal wire fraud too. We can destroy him. I don't want to destroy him, I said. Then I stopped. Actually, maybe I do. He stole my home, Janet. The home I shared with Tom. He laughed at me. Then we'll make him regret ever thinking about it. Can you come to my office today? Bring every document you have. Brandon's house was in the suburbs, a neighborhood of new construction where every house looked the same. His was the one with the boat in the driveway. A very expensive-looking boat. Ashley answered the door. She looked surprised to see me, then her face hardened. Margaret. Brandon said you might show up. I'm here to talk to my son. He doesn't want to see you. You're being unreasonable about this whole situation. Unreasonable. I kept my voice level. Ashley, you and Brandon sold my house without my permission. That's not unreasonable on my part. That's criminal on yours. She tried to close the door. I put my hand on it. I was 62 years old, 5'4", and about as threatening as a grandmother could be. But something in my face made Ashley step back. Brandon appeared behind her. Mom, you need to leave. No. We're going to talk about this. Right now. There's nothing to talk about. The house is sold. The money is gone. We paid off our debts. You'll be fine. You have your teacher's pension. I pushed past Ashley into their house. It was decorated expensively. Too expensively for a couple that supposedly needed money so desperately they had to steal from family. How much debt? I asked, standing in their marble-tiled entryway. Brandon and Ashley exchanged glances. That's none of your business. My house paid for it. That makes it my business. How much, Brandon? He crossed his arms. 50,000. I looked around their house, at the new furniture, the expensive art on the walls, the boat outside. 50,000 wouldn't cover all this. Try again. Ashley spoke up. 75,000. Credit cards mostly. And Brandon's gambling. So there it was. My son had a gambling problem. That's what this was really about. And my house? How much did you sell it for? 280,000, Brandon said. We got cash buyers. They wanted to close fast. The house was worth at least 350. They'd sold it under market value for a quick sale. My home, the place where I'd raised my children, where my husband had died, sold at a discount like a clearance item. Where's the rest of the money? I asked. Brandon looked at his shoes. Ashley looked at the wall. Where's the rest of the money, Brandon? We made some investments, he mumbled. You mean you gambled more? His face flushed red. It was a sure thing, Mom. We would have doubled it. But the game got raided and we lost everything. I actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. You stole my house, got caught up in an illegal gambling ring, and lost the money. And you think I'm the one being unreasonable? You don't understand, Ashley said. Brandon has a system. He was so close to winning big. We just needed more capital. Capital. That's what she called my life savings, my home equity, my security, capital for Brandon's gambling addiction. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. You're going to give me the name of every person involved in this sale. The real estate agent, the notary, the buyers, everyone. And then you're going to prepare yourself for what comes next. And what's that? Brandon's voice had an edge to it now. You going to sue us? With what money, Mom? You're living in a hotel. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Brandon, did you know I worked as a paralegal for 8 years before I became a teacher? Did you know I specialized in contract law and fraud cases? Did you know I have friends in the legal community who owe me favors? His face paled slightly. You made a mistake, son. You assumed I was just a helpless old woman. You forgot that I raised you. I know how you think. I know your tells. And I know exactly how to prove what you did. You can't prove anything, Ashley said, but her voice shook. We'll see. Enjoy your boat while you can. Something tells me you won't have it much longer. I left them standing in their expensive hallway, looking at each other with the first hints of worry creeping into their expressions. Janet's office was in a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel and the smell of money. Her conference room had a view of the city that probably cost more per square foot than my entire house had. She'd assembled a team, a forensic document examiner named Dr. Philip Hayes, a private investigator named Marcus Chen, and a young associate named Sarah, who looked hungry for justice. Let's see what we're working with, Janet said, spreading the documents across the table. Dr. Hayes pulled out equipment that looked like it belonged in a crime lab. He studied my signature on the legitimate power of attorney, then the forged signature on the house sale documents. This is amateur work, he said after 10 minutes. Look here, the pressure is all wrong. Your authentic signature shows heavy downstrokes at the beginning of each letter. This forgery is lighter, more hesitant. And the M is completely different. Your M has a sharp peak on the first hump. This one is rounded. Can you prove it in court? Janet asked. Absolutely. I'd stake my reputation on it. This is a clear forgery. Marcus Chen, the investigator, had already been busy. I pulled the real estate agent's license. Woman named Crystal Lopez. She's Brandon's girlfriend from high school. They're still friends on social media, lots of pictures together at parties. Conspiracy, Janet said, making notes. What about the buyers? That's where it gets interesting. Marcus pulled up his laptop. The buyers are Richard and Rachel Davis. They seem legitimate. But the sale went through Crystal Lopez's agency, and she rushed the closing. Told the Davises there were multiple offers, that they needed to decide fast. Standard pressure tactics, but combined with everything else, it shows intent to deceive. What about the notary? I asked. Marcus smiled. The notary is Crystal's aunt, Linda Martinez. She's notarized 3 other suspicious documents in the past year, all connected to quick house sales. I think we've found a pattern. So this isn't their first time, I said. Probably not. But you might be their first victim with legal knowledge who fights back. We spent the next 3 hours building the case. Every document, every connection, every piece of evidence arranged into a narrative that was clear and damning. Brandon and Ashley, desperate for money. Crystal Lopez, willing to help an old friend for a commission. Linda Martinez, the crooked notary. The Davises, innocent victims caught in the middle. We need to file immediately, Janet said. Emergency injunction to freeze any remaining assets, civil suit for fraud and return of property, criminal complaints for forgery, elder abuse, and conspiracy. We hit them with everything at once, so fast they can't hide money or flee. How quickly can we do this? I asked. We can file tomorrow. Judge Matthews owes me a favor. We'll have a hearing by end of week. There's something else, I said quietly. Everyone looked at me. The house they sold. It's not my primary asset. I need to tell you something I haven't told anyone, not even my children. Janet leaned forward. I'm listening. My husband Tom was very smart with money. When he died, he left me that house, yes. But he also left me 3 rental properties across the state, a portfolio of stocks and bonds, and a trust fund that generates income. Total value, about $1.2 million. The kids don't know about any of it. Tom and I decided years ago not to tell them. We wanted them to make their own way, not wait around for an inheritance. So the house, Janet said slowly, understanding dawning, was my test. Tom and I had talked about it. He worried about Brandon's character, worried he might try something like this someday. So we kept the house in my name only, made it seem like my only asset. If Brandon tried to take it, we'd know his true nature. And now you do, Sarah said softly. Now I do. And I'm going to make sure he faces every consequence of his choice. Marcus whistled low. Mrs. Patterson, your son tried to steal what he thought was your entire life savings. But actually, He stole less than a quarter of your net worth. And he's going to learn that the hard way, I said, when we reveal the full extent of my assets in court, when he realizes he destroyed our relationship over a fraction of what was always going to be his inheritance anyway. That's when the real punishment begins. Not prison, not fines. The knowledge that his greed cost him everything. The courthouse on filing day was busy with the usual traffic of human misery. Divorces, lawsuits, criminal hearings. We walked in with 3 boxes of documents, a flash drive of evidence, and a determination that made the clerk's eyes widen when she saw the filing. "This is extensive," she said, flipping through the pages. "Elder abuse cases usually are," Janet replied smoothly. Judge Matthews saw us that afternoon. She was in her 60s, sharp-eyed and no nonsense. She'd spent 20 years on the bench and could smell fraud from across the courtroom. "Mrs. Patterson," she said after reading through our motion, "your son sold your house while you were on vacation?" "Yes, Your Honor. Forged my signature on the documents. The power of attorney he referenced had expired over a year ago. And you have proof of this?" Dr. Hayes stepped forward with his analysis. He spent 15 minutes explaining the forensic evidence. Judge Matthews listened carefully, asking pointed questions. "Your Honor," Janet said, "we're requesting an emergency asset freeze on Brandon Patterson and Ashley Patterson. We have reason to believe they'll attempt to hide or spend the remaining proceeds from the illegal sale." "Granted," Judge Matthews said immediately. "Freeze all accounts. I'm also issuing a restraining order. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson are not to contact Mrs. Patterson directly. All communication goes through attorneys. We'll have a full hearing in 72 hours. She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm sorry this happened to you. I have 3 children myself. I can't imagine one of them doing something like this. Neither could I, Your Honor. Until it happened." The asset freeze hit Brandon and Ashley at 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I know because Marcus was monitoring their social media. Ashley posted at 4:51 p.m. "OMG, my credit card just got declined at Target. Bank says our accounts are frozen. What is happening?" Brandon tried to call me 47 times that evening. I didn't answer. He tried Melissa. She called me. "Mom, what did you do?" Brandon is freaking out. He says all their money is frozen. They can't access anything. "I did what I had to do, Melissa. Your brother committed fraud. He's facing the consequences. This is extreme, don't you think? He's your son. And I'm his mother. The mother he stole from. The mother he made homeless. Where was your concern then, Melissa?" She hung up. 20 minutes later, I got a text from Brandon. "Mom, please. Ashley is pregnant. We need money for doctor appointments. You're killing us." Ashley was pregnant. My first grandchild, and I was learning about it through a manipulative text message designed to make me feel guilty. I showed the text to Janet. She smiled grimly. Classic abuser tactic. Trying to use sympathy to avoid consequences. Don't respond. "But she's pregnant," I said. "That's my grandchild. Who will be born to parents in prison if we prove what we need to prove? That child deserves better than parents who steal from family. You're not hurting the baby by holding Brandon accountable. You're showing them what justice looks like." The hearing was on Monday morning. Brandon and Ashley arrived with their lawyer, a nervous-looking man named Gerald, who clearly hadn't been briefed on the extent of the evidence against his clients. Brandon looked terrible. 3 days without access to money had changed him. His hair was unwashed. His clothes wrinkled. Ashley was crying before we even entered the courtroom. Judge Matthews called the hearing to order. Janet stood. "Your Honor, we're here regarding case number 2024 CV 8472, Margaret Patterson versus Brandon Patterson, Ashley Patterson, Crystal Lopez, and Linda Martinez. We're alleging fraud, forgery, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit fraud." Gerald stood. "Your Honor, my clients maintain that Mrs. Patterson gave verbal permission for the sale and simply doesn't remember due to her age. Mrs. Patterson is 62 years old, in perfect health, and has a memory sharper than mine," Judge Matthews said dryly. "Do you have any evidence of this verbal permission?" "Well, no, but—" Gerald started. "Then sit down. Janet, present your evidence." What followed was a masterclass in legal destruction. Dr. Calm. Hayes showed his forensic analysis on the big screen, the forged signatures magnified until they filled the wall. Every difference highlighted, every mistake clear. Marcus presented his evidence of conspiracy. Text messages between Brandon and Crystal Lopez discussing the sale before I'd even left for Hawaii. Social media posts showing Brandon and Ashley celebrating a big windfall the day after the sale closed. Bank records showing the money flowing from the sale into their accounts, then out to casinos and luxury purchases. Then Janet dropped the final bomb. Your Honor, we'd also like to present evidence that this was not an isolated incident. Crystal Lopez and Linda Martinez have been involved in at least 5 similar quick sales of properties belonging to elderly owners in the past 3 years. We believe this is a systematic fraud operation. Gerald looked like he'd been punched. Brandon's face had gone from pale to gray. Your Honor, Janet continued, we're not just seeking return of the property and damages. We're asking that you refer this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. These defendants have committed serious crimes. Judge Matthews looked at Brandon and Ashley. They both looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. Mr. Patterson, do you have anything to say for yourself? Brandon stood slowly. Mom, I'm sorry. We were desperate. We made a mistake. You made a choice, I said. My first words since entering the courtroom. You chose your gambling addiction over your mother. You chose theft over honesty. You chose to make me homeless rather than ask for help. That wasn't a mistake, Brandon. That was a decision. Judge Matthews nodded. I agree. This court finds clear and convincing evidence of fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. The sale of Mrs. Patterson's property is hereby voided. The property will be returned to Mrs. Patterson immediately. Brandon Patterson, Ashley Patterson, Crystal Lopez, and Linda Martinez are ordered to pay restitution to Mrs. Patterson in the amount of $280,000, plus court costs and attorney fees. Furthermore, Judge Matthews continued, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Bailiff, please ensure Mr. and Mrs. Patterson surrender their passports before leaving the courthouse today. Brandon started crying. Actually crying, in the middle of the courtroom. Ashley was sobbing openly, her hand on her stomach in a protective gesture. Your Honor, Gerald said weakly. My clients, Mrs. Patterson is expecting. Perhaps we could work out some kind of arrangement. Judge Matthews looked at Ashley coldly. Then she should have thought about that before committing felonies. Pregnancy doesn't exempt anyone from consequences. Court is adjourned. In the hallway, Brandon tried to approach me. The bailiff stepped between us. Mom, please! Brandon's voice was desperate. We'll lose everything. Our house, our cars, everything. Where will we live? What about the baby? You'll figure it out, I said. The same way you expected me to figure it out when you made me homeless. The same way you laughed about it with Ashley while I stood on a stranger's porch with nowhere to go. I'm your son, he said, as if that should mean something. And I'm your mother. That should have meant something too. I walked away and didn't look back. The district attorney's office moved fast. Marcus had given them a gift, evidence of a multi-year fraud operation with clear victims and clear evidence. Within 2 weeks, Brandon, Ashley, Crystal, and Linda were all indicted. Brandon got the worst of it. Forgery, elder abuse, fraud, conspiracy. 7 felony counts. Ashley got 5. Crystal and Linda got 6 each for their roles in multiple frauds. The prosecutor, a woman named Diana Torres, called me before the arraignment. Mrs. Patterson, I want you to know that we're taking this seriously. Elder abuse is a priority for our office. Your son and his accomplices are looking at significant prison time if convicted. How much time? I asked. Brandon could get up to 15 years, Ashley 12. The others, similar ranges. Of course, they'll probably offer plea deals, first-time offenders, pregnant wife, all that. But they won't walk away from this. Good, I said. Then I surprised myself. But I want to make a statement at sentencing. Whatever happens, I want to speak. You'll have that opportunity. The Davises, Richard and Rachel, were horrified when they learned the truth. They called me the day after the hearing. Mrs. Patterson, Rachel said, we had no idea. Crystal told us the sale was legitimate. We have 2 kids. We used our life savings for that house. The court voided the sale. I reminded her gently. You'll get your money back. The title insurance will cover it. But we love that house. We've already started making it our home. I thought about that. About the house that held so many memories. About Tom dying in the master bedroom, me holding his hand. About raising Brandon and Melissa there, birthday parties and Christmas mornings, and all the ordinary moments that make a life. Mrs. Davis, I said, would you like to buy the house? Legitimately this time. I'll sell it to you for what you paid before. $280,000. That's below market value, but you've been through enough. And honestly, I don't think I can live there anymore. Too many ghosts now. She started crying. Really? You'd do that? Really? But this time we do it right. Lawyers, proper documents, everything legal, no rush. We take our time and do it correctly. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. A month later, I signed the papers to sell my house to the Davises. Legitimate papers this time, with my real signature, witnessed by Janet and notarized by a proper notary. The house that Tom and I had built our life in, where I'd raised my children, where I'd thought I'd live out my years, it went to a young family who would fill it with new memories. I used the money to buy a condo closer to downtown. Smaller, modern, with no ghosts. A fresh start. Brandon's trial was scheduled for 6 months out, but 3 months in, Gerald came to Janet with a plea offer. They'll plead guilty to fraud and forgery, Janet told me. Brandon gets 4 years in prison. Ashley gets 2 years of house arrest and probation because of the baby. Crystal and Linda are making their own deals. 4 years. It seemed like both too much and not enough. There's more, Janet said. They have to pay back every penny. $280,000 in restitution, plus another $100,000 in penalties and fees. They'll be paying it off for the rest of their lives. And the baby? Ashley will have the baby while under house arrest. Her mother is moving in to help. After that, depending on how she does with probation, she might avoid further jail time. But Brandon will miss the first 4 years of his child's life. I thought about my grandchild, who would be born into this mess, who would grow up visiting Daddy in prison, who would learn someday what their father had done to their grandmother. I'll accept the plea, I said, on one condition. What's that? I want them in a financial literacy program and an addiction program for Brandon. He has a gambling problem. That's what started all this. If he's going to be a father, he needs to deal with that. Janet smiled. I'll make it part of the plea agreement. The sentencing hearing was on a gray Thursday in November. The courtroom was full. The Davises came to support me. Some of my old teaching colleagues, Marcus and Dr. Hayes. Even Melissa flew in from Oregon, though I wasn't sure whose side she was on. Judge Matthews called the court to order. Brandon and Ashley sat at the defendant's table, both in suits that looked borrowed. Ashley was showing now, her pregnancy visible under her jacket. Mrs. Patterson, Judge Matthews said, would you like to make a statement? I stood. I'd written something, but standing there looking at my son, I put the paper away. Brandon, I said, you're my son. I love you. I will always love you. But love doesn't mean accepting theft. It doesn't mean ignoring harm. You stole from me. You made me homeless. You laughed about it. Those are facts. But here's another fact. You're about to be a father. That child didn't ask for any of this. That child deserves better. So I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for accountability. You're going to prison, and that's right. That's just, you broke the law. But when you get out, that child needs you to be better. That child needs you to have learned something. I took a breath. I'm setting up a trust fund for my grandchild. They'll have money for college, for their future. But you and Ashley won't be able to touch it. It's protected. Because I won't let your mistakes hurt another generation. Brandon was crying again. Real tears this time, not manipulation. Mom, I'm so sorry. I know you are. I hope 4 years is enough time to figure out why you did this and how to never do it again. Judge Matthews sentenced them according to the plea agreement. Brandon, 4 years in federal prison. Ashley, 2 years house arrest, 3 years probation. Crystal and Linda got their own sentences. The fraud ring was broken. As they led Brandon away in handcuffs, he looked back at me. I love you, Mom. I love you too, I said. And I meant it. Love and accountability aren't opposites. They're partners. 6 months after the sentencing, Ashley had the baby, a girl. She named her Margaret after me. Melissa called to tell me. Ashley wants you to visit, Melissa said. She says she understands if you don't want to, but she hopes you'll meet your granddaughter. I drove to Ashley's mother's house on a Saturday afternoon. Ashley met me at the door, thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under her eyes. In her arms was a tiny baby with Brandon's eyes and my nose. This is Maggie, Ashley said quietly. Would you like to hold her? I took my granddaughter in my arms. She was perfect, innocent, untouched by the sins of her parents. I'm sorry, Ashley whispered, for everything. I was wrong. We were wrong. I'm in therapy now. Court-ordered, but also, I needed it. I'm learning about enabling and addiction and how we hurt people when we're desperate. I know, I said, rocking Maggie gently. I forgive you, Ashley, not for Brandon's sake, for yours and for hers. She deserves a grandmother who isn't carrying hatred. Ashley started crying. Thank you. Brandon writes letters from prison. He's in the addiction program you required. He says it's helping. He says he understands now what he did to you. Good. That's good. I visited every week after that. Watched Maggie grow, helped Ashley when she struggled. Melissa came too, eventually. The family was broken, but we were trying to piece it back together in a new shape. Brandon got out after 3 years. Good behavior. He came to see me the day after his release, Ashley and Maggie with him. Maggie was 3 now, talking, running, full of life. Mom, Brandon said. He looked different, older, harder, but maybe wiser too. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I understand now. What I took from you, what I destroyed. I'm working 2 jobs to pay back the restitution. It'll take the rest of my life, but I'm going to do it. I know you will, I said. And I'm sober. From gambling, from drinking, from all of it. 3 years clean. I want to be the father Maggie deserves, the son you deserved. You can't change the past, Brandon, but you can build a better future, so do that. He nodded. Then Maggie ran up to me, arms outstretched. Grandma! I scooped her up, this innocent joy, this second chance. Family isn't blood, it's not property. It's not unconditional acceptance of wrong behavior. Family is accountability and forgiveness working together. Family is choosing to do better. My condo had a small balcony with a view of the city. Some evenings, I'd sit there with coffee, watching the sunset paint the buildings gold and orange. I'd think about Tom, about the house we'd shared, about the test he'd built into our estate planning that revealed our son's character. I'd think about the law degree I'd never finished, the paralegal career I'd left behind for teaching, how all that knowledge had come back when I needed it most, how being underestimated, dismissed as a confused old woman, had given me the element of surprise. I'd think about justice, not revenge, but real justice. Brandon serving his time, learning from his mistakes, becoming a better father, Ashley working through her own issues, the fraud ring broken up, other elderly victims protected. And I'd think about Maggie, about the trust fund I'd set up for her education, about teaching her someday about choices and consequences, about how love sometimes looks like letting people face the results of their actions. My phone would ring sometimes, Janet calling with updates on the restitution payments, Marcus checking in, having become a friend. The Davises sending pictures of improvements to the house, always careful to ask if I wanted to see them. Melissa called more now, too. We were rebuilding our relationship slowly. She'd apologized for not believing me at first. I'd accepted. Everyone deserves a chance to grow. Brandon's payments came like clockwork, $2,500 a month. It would take him 17 years to pay back what he owed. He was 37 now. He'd be 54 when the debt was paid. Most of his adult life, working to restore what he'd stolen. But he was doing it. That mattered. On my 65th birthday, my family gathered at my condo. Melissa and her husband, Brandon, Ashley, and Maggie. We ate cake and opened presents, and Maggie sang me a song she'd learned in preschool. Brandon gave me a card. Inside was a check for an extra $1,000 toward restitution and a note. Mom, I know I can never fully repay what I took from you. The money? Yes, eventually. But the trust, the security, the belief that family keeps you safe, I stole that, and I can't give it back. All I can do is try to earn a small piece of it back every day. I love you. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when you should have. I hugged my son, felt him hold me tight, felt his tears on my shoulder. This was the real punishment and the real redemption, not prison. This, the long, slow work of rebuilding what was broken, the daily choice to be better. That's what I learned from having my house stolen by my son. That justice isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a monthly payment and a therapy session and showing up for your child even when it's hard. Sometimes it's a grandmother holding her son accountable while also holding his daughter with love. My house was gone. The physical structure I'd shared with Tom, raised my children in, thought would be mine forever. But I'd learned something. Home isn't a building. Home is integrity. Home is knowing you stood up for what's right even when it hurt. Home is teaching the next generation that actions have consequences, and love doesn't mean accepting harm. I had a new condo, a smaller space, but it was mine, truly mine, earned through strength I didn't know I had. And in the end, that was worth more than any house could ever be. The sunset painted the city gold. Maggie climbed into my lap. Brandon and Ashley cleaned up cake plates. Melissa laughed at something her husband said. My family, broken and repaired in a new shape. Not perfect, not what I'd imagined, but real and honest and trying. That was enough. That was home. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Click on the video to the left for another story. Thank you for watching.